Hey, what is up, everybody? This is Stevie Breach coming to you here tonight with the big match coming up tomorrow on Monday Night Raw. I know that it was announced last week. It's going to be Sheamus getting his rematch against Roman Reigns for the WWE World Heavyweight Championship. This time, they're going to be using Vince McMahon as the guy to be the special guest referee, and that's supposed to be the hook. What makes this big match big and why you're supposed to care about this. Definitely Vince coming back a few weeks ago was a real big kick in the pants for Monday Night Raw. And then, of course, last week, them running the storyline of Vince getting fired. Not getting fired, I apologize. Vince getting arrested for pushing the police officer, then Stephanie and the lawyer having to go out and bail him out, only for him to come back with the announcement. It's been a long time since we've seen Monday Night Raw run with a full storyline of everything that's going to be going down. There's a lot of twists and there's a lot of turns that can be going into this match over what we think's going to be going down with this. I know that I was surprised when Roman Reigns won the championship the night after TLC. Everyone always remembers the pay-per-view victories. Not that many people remember Monday Night Raw wins, even though we don't get a lot of title changes on Monday Night Raw when it comes to the big one. You can think of a few Money in the Bank cash-ins. You can think of a few times they've had to do things where they've switched the title to sort of pick things up and get them going in the next direction. But they normally leave them for pay-per-views. But with pay-per-views being now on the network, and now they're only $9.99, and a lot of people subscribe to the WWE Network regardless of how good or bad or whatever the pay-per-view is going to be, because they know that they're going to get their value with other places. They can do things like this because they just signed that big deal with USA. You've got SmackDown moving to USA this week, so you definitely gotta. Wasn't it WWE week last week? So I can see them having a big match. But I think that honestly, when it comes down to it, this is going to have to be some sort of a cliffhanger, I guess you can say is probably the best way to put it. They're putting SmackDown on the USA Network. I believe it's still going to be on the same night. It's still going to be on Thursdays. USA wants to be the #1 network in cable, so they want to re-up this. But I think that honestly there's a bigger picture to this. I know that Sheamus wasn't the greatest WWE World Heavyweight Champion. Roman Reigns right now is the guy that I really don't believe in. He's not a guy that I'm really hyped for. I don't think he really moves the needle. For WWE, I thought there was a time, but I think the WWE waited too long. I'm not the biggest Ring of Honor fan, but I know that a lot of people, when they talk about Ring of Honor, is a company that always waits just a little bit too long to put the championship on somebody, to the point where people don't really care anymore. Whether that was Kevin Steen when he was there, whether that was Adam Cole, whether if it was Michael Logan. It seems like everybody gets that championship 6 months to a year after the time they're the hottest person in that company. It's almost like they put the championship on them to sort of get that last little bit out of him, when they could have been getting a whole bunch of title defenses out of the guy and making people really care about what's going down. I think that when you look at Roman Reigns, you definitely know that the storyline is Roman Reigns versus Triple H and how we get to there. Some people think it's going to be a Royal Rumble match. Some people think it's going to be a WrestleMania match. I think it really means more if it happens at WrestleMania. But definitely with Roman Reigns winning the championship and him being the champion, you got to be thinking of where this championship is going to be dropped, because it's not like Triple H is going to care enough about kicking Roman Reigns' ass that he's going to put himself into the Royal Rumble to become the #1 contender to get there. I just don't really see that happening. And going down to seeing Triple H versus Roman, but it's got to be a comeback, probably this week, whether if it's on Raw, whether if it's on SmackDown, of Triple H re-emerging himself. I know that he took himself out at TLC after the match was over. Sheamus was getting beat up by Roman Reigns, and it wasn't so much that he came down to to save Sheamus. He came down to sort of shave Roman Reigns from maybe embarrassing himself, or maybe trying to take it a little bit too far. He almost came out there, unlike being Triple H, he came out there as the authority figure that Vince McMahon would have been, saying like, hey, calm down. Almost like Vince was there during the screw job, trying to make sure everything went a certain way, and was sort of out there like that. But Roman Reigns immediately saw Triple H and took the fight to him and kicked his ass and laid him out. And, Triple H went on his Twitter and said, "Game on." And, he hasn't been on Monday Night Raw, and people know this, but, Triple H is constantly visible on Twitter. He was doing tweets today from Dallas Cowboys Stadium, taking a look at the Cowboys game as, they're getting ready for WrestleMania 32, trying to hype up everybody to sell 100,000 tickets to try and beat the, I think they just want to really get over 100,000 tickets, but I think they really want to beat 93,000 from WrestleMania 3 in Detroit. They want to show that wrestling really is pop culture and really does matter. Whether if you're a wrestling fan or not, you open up the USA Today and you see that there's 100,000 wrestling fans in Dallas. You're going to take note of people really care about this, but Triple H was visible. I think days after TLC when they did the WWE NXT takeover from England is what they called that, and or was it London? I can't remember, but he was out there to start the show, and some people said that was pretty vain of him to try and make it where NXT was bigger than the storyline that was going on with Roman Reigns. But, this is sort of like his baby and everything like that. Honestly, in my opinion, I wouldn't have had him there, but I think he's kicked off every NXT special that there's been, and definitely NXT is the thing that it's growing, whether it has house shows, whether if it was doing the musical tours that were going on, the festivals, or whether if it was being at Brooklyn and selling as many tickets as SummerSlam did, or whether if it's going and doing a UK tour, it's constantly growing, and he wants to be a part of that because I think people looked at him when he decided to take over NXT and do the Performance Center. I apologize. That he was crazy. He was out of his mind, and they definitely really haven't been able to produce stars that people want to see on the main roster. They've produced stars, they just haven't produced money on Raw, whether if that's the writing crew, this, that, or the other. But definitely you could see Triple H returning at the end of this, whether if it's him costing Roman Reigns the championship, making it where Roman Reigns would be a 2-time champion and a 2-time loser already. This, of course, would make Sheamus a 4 or 5-time champion, and that's kind of weird to think about, but they don't really have anybody else that could take that belt away from him, because you look at that heel stable of Rusev, Del Rio, Sheamus, and Wade Barrett, who's injured. Nobody's really on that level of being there. Definitely when Seth Rollins got hurt, he definitely was being close to being on a run as a babyface, but they hadn't really built anybody up to take that over, and Sheamus was the guy that always, is always pushed to look good, but people don't really care about this guy, and definitely people don't really want to see this guy as a champion. So it's going to be a big one. I think that more than likely Triple H shows up and costs him the championship. I think he costs him the match, but he doesn't cost him the championship. I'll say that Roman holds the belt. Sheamus probably somehow finds a way to get the win, but honestly, when it comes down to it, I think that when Raw closes out the show, Sheamus isn't even in the ring. He's just miraculously disappeared, and I bet you that Roman Reigns and Triple H is the main focus of Monday Night Raw going into SmackDown.